Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Post 16 and Kent Choices podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and hopefully, you will find this very informative and useful. So, housekeeping. So, the podcast is being recorded. This is just available for you to watch back and for other people to view this podcast as well. We do have a Q&A box, and we will open the Q&A box near the end of the presentation so you can put any questions you may have in this box, and we will come back to some of them questions as well near the end and hopefully answer as many as we can. Not all questions will be published if they are duplicate or personal to individuals, but for in-depth queries, please do email us at kentchoices@theeducationpeople.org. So here today is myself, Owen Bartholomew. We also have Zara Lawrence, who I'll be passing over to shortly. And we also have an expert speaker who is Jackie Lovell, and there will be a recording that we will show you very shortly. So the education people have delivered over 400 hours across Kent schools this past academic year of support. So we may have been into one of your young person's schools. So just a welcome from us to the podcast and who we are. So this podcast will hopefully help you with exploring next steps after year 11, navigating Kent Choices, making applications, the key dates, info and deadlines, who to contact for support, and answering any additional questions that you may have. Just to take you through a few trends of 24-25. So this is Kent Choice's 19th year that has been helping young people. There was around 21,000 people in Kent, and there's 2,000 more this year than last year of year 11s in Kent. And this how many young people have applied through the system last year. So 12,888 young people did use Kent Choices to apply last year. There is 3,216 courses advertised on Kent Choices across Kent. And we supported over 1,000 young people in the summer holidays as well. So Kent Choices does not just run academic year cycle, there is support after that academic year cycle as well within that transition around results day. There was 375,000 views of the Kent Choices website last year, and 96% of young people who made applications on Kent Choices rated it good or great. So at this point, I'm going to pass over to my colleague, Zara Lawrence, who's going to take you through the next few slides.
Thank you, Owen. So you're in a position where you've come along tonight to help your young person make a decision of what they want to do after year 11. And there's lots of different things that they might be considering and lots of different things that's going to impact their decision. They're going to be thinking about what subjects that they're interested in, what subjects that they're good at. They're going to be thinking about where they learn best. So is that in a classroom-based environment? Is that something else? They're going to be thinking about what's available to them locally and kind of all those different things in terms of their entry requirements, what grades they're going to get, what's going to be accessible to them, whether they want a familiar environment, and of course the opinion, advice and guidance from family and friends. So hopefully in today's podcast, we're going to have a look to see what those different options for your young people are. So the main options then are sixth form, college, apprenticeships, training or work with training. And we're going to have a look at each one of these in a little bit more detail so that you have an understanding that you can hopefully pass on to your young person to if that is the right option for them. Depending on where you live in Kent will depend in terms of what you have access to. So Kent is split into 4 areas, north, east, south and west. But just because you're based in one area doesn't mean that you can't access a provision, so a sixth form or a college in a different area. If they are able to travel that distance, it might be that there's a more suitable provision for them somewhere else. Perhaps you live on a border, and so it is worth looking in your local area and a little bit further out, especially if you have access to local transport links. So starting off with sixth form then, what is sixth form? So sixth form is the option that would offer your young person the most familiar environment to them. They might choose to stay on at their own sixth form, which offers them that comfort of having the kind of environment, so the classroom, the layout of the school, the teachers, and lots of their peers that they already know. And that might be a priority for them. They might also choose to go to a different sixth form, and that's perfectly okay. Lots of young people move around after the after the end of year 11. So they might be looking for a familiar school environment, but perhaps a fresh start or perhaps different subjects on offer in a different sixth form. And sixth form offers you multiple subjects. So depending on the school will depend on what subjects that they have on offer, but typically they will offer you either A levels, BTECs, or an IB, which stands for an International Baccalaureate. But they'll offer subjects that, again, very familiar to your young person. So things like geography, history, science, maths, and English. We call them non-vocational subjects. Sixth forms are increasingly offering more vocational subjects, so more practical, so your BTECs, things like catering or health and social, but it will depend on the sixth form itself. Typically, because they are offering you those non-vocational subjects, and it's likely to be very classroom-based learning. So much of what they're used to, but there'll be a little bit more independent importance on independent learning. So whilst that teacher's there to help and support them, they will be kind of set a little bit more project work and research work where they can then come back and feed back to that in the classroom. Depending on this sixth form will depend on the dress code, but some sixth forms have a smart casual dress code, some are more relaxed, but they're typically not in uniform once they go into sixth form. And they have a whole choice of future pathways ahead of them. After sixth form, they might choose to go on to university, they might choose to go into employment or onto an apprenticeship. So lots of options available for them. The next option that they might be considering is college. Now, college offers them a change of environment. They might have been at their current school for the previous 5 years, so they're looking for a fresh start. And as I said, a new environment, new classrooms, new people, new teachers, and a college can offer them that. They can also offer some more vocational subjects, so things that are gearing them up for the world of work. Carpentry, motor mechanics, childcare, hairdressing, and they can offer perhaps a more specialised environment in terms of kind of big catering kitchens or hairdressing salons that might be more important to your young person. And they typically at college study just the one subject, often a BTEC or a T level. So if they already know what they're interested in, college offers them that environment where they can really focus and specialise on that. In terms of the college timetable, unlike sixth form where they would be in 5 days a week as usual, at college they would go in 2 to 3 days a week, but they might be slightly longer days. And then in entry requirements for college, there are more flexible entry requirements than there are at sixth form. In order to get into a level 3 course, they will need to achieve their grade 4 in maths and English. But if they don't quite miss that, colleges often have level 2 provisions available where they continue to work towards their maths and English, or perhaps a level 1 option where they can focus solely on their maths and English and then work towards one of those more vocational subjects the following September. The dress code of college is often a little bit more relaxed than sixth form, but it will depend on the course that you are on. So if your young person chooses to go on to carpentry, there might be some more specific dress requirements that they need to meet for that course whilst they're in the workshop, and things like steel cap, boots, high vises, etc. to meet those safety requirements. So more relaxed, but it does depend on the course that you are studying. And then again, there's lots of future pathways that they can choose from college. A common misunderstanding is that if you go to college, you can't go on to university. And that is absolutely not true. If they're studying at a level 3 course at college, then they can still look at university for afterwards, as well as those other routes that we discussed. So apprenticeships, employment, whatever it is that their career path and the direction is that they are getting taken into. And there are lots of different colleges across Kent. So you have East Kent College, which is divided into Folkestone, Ashford, Dover, Broadstairs, Sheppey, and Canterbury. That's in the east and south of Kent. And then you have also North Kent and Mid Kent colleges. And if you live on the border of Kent, you can also look at ones that are based in Medway or perhaps London if that is more accessible to your young person. The next option then we have is apprenticeships. So apprenticeships is essentially their way of being able to enter paid employment straight after year 11, as it is a combination of work as well as training and studying. It's a very hands-on way of learning, so if your young person perhaps isn't that suited to the classroom and they'd prefer to be more of a practical learner, it can offer them that while still getting that qualification. And they might consider doing an apprenticeship at the end of year 11, but equally it's open to anyone over the age of 16. So it might be that they want to give sixth form or college a go for a couple of years, and then they can move on to an apprenticeship later on, and leading into those future pathways of different employment opportunities as they graduate. I've not covered apprenticeships in too much detail, and that is because we have our apprenticeship podcast this Thursday, where we'll go into that in a lot more detail, covering what an apprenticeship is, the different qualification levels, where and when to apply, and we'll also hear from a recording of an apprentice themselves, as well as an employer, and again, an opportunity to ask questions. So if your young person is interested in apprenticeship, I would urge you to sign up to that. The sign up link is in the events tab on KentChoices, similar to how you signed up today. So get yourself registered and join us later on in the week for more information on that one. Moving on to training providers then. So your next option for your young person is that they might want to go to a smaller environment. Perhaps they aren't ready to progress onto sixth form or to college or to an apprenticeship just yet, and they need a couple more years to work on their maths and English, as well as things like confidence and employability skills. And a training provider would offer them just that. Across Kent, there's lots of different training providers and they typically have a specialist focus. So they might look at things like sport or music, depending on that particular training provider. But they also look at lots of different work experience placements. So again, building those employability skills as well as the confidence of your young people. And again, lots of different future pathways. So it might be that they go to a training provider and then they want to progress onto a college or an apprenticeship once they've had that little bit more time to build those skills. Just a little insight into the different training providers that we have across Kent. And again, they all specialise in different things. So you've got sports, you've got music, you've got art, you've got more work-focused ones. So it just depends where your young person is and what they're interested in to see if that might be the best next step for them. If your young person does have an EHCP or SEND needs, we really would recommend that you check out the KCC website and the Send Information Hub for more information for them, where you can have a little look to see what their options are and what support available for you. There is also a video that you might want to have a look at on the KentChoices website. This can be found in the resources section, and that's just going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to make an application if your young person does have an EHCP, because there are a few more people involved in that process. It can be slightly more complicated, so do make sure you're making the most of those resources to help you guide through that transition. Also, just to highlight to you, another service within the education people, we have our supported employment team. Now, the supported employment team work with young people from 16 onwards and all the way up to adulthood to support in finding employment and apprenticeships. And they help throughout the process. So they will help from searching from jobs to the application process, writing CVs, interviews, as well as getting them set up in the workplace with any adaptations that they might need. And that's available to young people with an EHCP plan or any SEND students. So something to bear in mind, it might be an option for your young person after year 11, or it might be something they want to come back to later on as they start their career journey. So that's just a brief insight then of all the different options that they have available to them. Once they have decided what they want to do, we'd recommend them using the Kent Choices website to make their application. And the Kent Choices website is hopefully a one-stop shop for everything that they want to do within this transition journey. So they can search to see what their local options are. As I said, make their applications on there. Have a look at the open days for all of those different sixth forms and colleges when they are, as well as reach out to ourselves for help. So we're just going to play a short video from our Kent Choices manager, the expert on all things Kent Choices, Jackie Lovell, to give you an insight of this website.
This video explains what Kent Choices is, how it can help, and what you need to do, along with signposting you to useful resources and how-to guides. We understand that making decisions after year 11 can be overwhelming for young people and their parents and carers. It can be an exciting but also confusing time, as there's so many options to choose from. Kent Choices is here to help. We've been helping young people plan their futures since 2006, and last year 97% of users rated us great or good. Some even left us some great feedback. So what is Kent Choices? Basically, it's a website especially for young people in Year 11 that live in Kent and Medway. It's designed to help them and their parents' carers with their next steps. It has everything in one place, lots of useful information, an online prospectus, and a built-in application system. It's brought to you by the education people who work on behalf of Kent County Council. You may have received a letter from us introducing you to our website. On the website, you can discover what the options are after Year 11 and find upcoming open events. You can view courses, information, along with application instructions. And young people can use their accounts to search and apply for opportunities. They can easily keep track of their applications, view messages, and accept offers all in one convenient place. Let's have a quick look at the website. To discover what the options are, click on Young People and Parents, then Your Options after Year 11. Here you'll find a short video and a summary of each option. To find out about upcoming open evenings, click Events. You can use the filters to narrow your results. Select an event to find out more. To search for sixth form or college courses, click Find a Course. If young people know what they'd like to study, type this in the search bar. Use the filters to narrow down the results, for example, by area or school or college. If they know where they'd like to study, click on the sixth form college courses box, then select by provider and locate them from the list. All their courses will be displayed. Click on the course name to find out more. Here you can view important application instructions, such as how to apply, when applications open and close, along with any general entry requirements. Click on the school name to find out what it's like to study there. You can view contact details, or if you'd like to find travel routes, click on the school icon, then click Get Directions. You can also see if they have any upcoming open events and view further information from here. We create an account for all young people that attend a Kent and Medway school, and the school will hand out login details. If your young person hasn't received theirs, check with their school first. They may be planning to hand them out during a lesson or assembly. If they can't help, or your young person is being educated at home, please contact the KentChoices team. Most schools will introduce their learners to KentChoices, get them logged on and support or signpost them how to apply. But if that's not the case, young people can find lots of how-to videos and tips on applying in the student resources area. There's also a dedicated resources section for parents and carers, where you can find a copy of the letter, podcast recordings, and other useful information. Answers to common questions, such as how to retrieve login details, can be found in the FAQ section of the site. But if you want further assistance, click Get in Touch to contact the KentChoices team. Here's our top tips. Apply as soon as possible. Popular courses can fill up quickly. Don't wait until results day, as options will be limited and schools and colleges will be difficult to contact over the summer holidays. Young people can start applying from Monday the 3rd of November, although these dates do vary across sixth forms and colleges. Have a what if plan just in case their first choice falls through. That could be the course is no longer running, or they didn't do quite as well as expected in their exams. And please encourage your young person to check their messages. They don't want to miss any important interviews, and importantly, they need to accept their offers on the system. If they don't, their place is at risk and could be offered to someone else. Remind young people to keep their login details safe, as they'll need them throughout the year. And if they go to any college open events, it's wise to take them along, just in case they'd like to apply then and there. If ever they forget their logins, they can instantly reset their password if they have an email address registered to their account. And finally, here's a timeline to help you and your young person plan what needs doing and when throughout the year. We hope this short video has been useful, but please do get in touch if you have any further questions or queries. KentChoices is how it can help and what you need to do, along with signposting you to useful results.
So hopefully that short video was useful to yourself, and as Jackie said, if you do need any help and support, you can get in touch with them, Jackie and Alice, with that email or phone number at any point through the academic year, and they'll be more than happy to help out. I also just wanted to highlight to you some upcoming resources that we have. So in our resources section, we will shortly be uploading some short videos that will help your young person when it comes to actually making their application. So videos on how to write their personal statement and how to submit their applications can be found there from the launch of KentChoices on the 3rd of November. So just recapping that timeline that Jackie had at the end of her video, this is what your journey might look like with your Year 11 student. We're currently in the top right-hand corner with the podcast today, and then moving on to those applications opening. So it might be worth kind of coming back to this timeline. It will be available on KentChoices in the resources section, just to make sure that you're on track and you're kind of following all of those processes through the academic year as we would recommend. But just to highlight some of those key dates for you then, we've mentioned that the applications open on the 3rd of November. This is just the general rule. Sixth forms and colleges can make their own opening date. So some might already be open, but some might be opening slightly later. So it's worth having a look directly on that page, that school or college's page on KentChoices, to see when they are opening. But generally it's the 3rd of November. In terms of closing dates, it does vary in terms of where your young person is applying for. Some sixth forms and colleges will have a closing date, and we might be looking at around January, but others will just keep taking until they've reached capacity and they're on a first come, first served basis. As a general rule, we would always recommend that young people try to make their applications before Christmas to avoid missing out on their first choice. And then, of course, a date for the diary, you've got results day on the 20th of August this year. My colleague is now going to open the Q&A box. So if you do have any additional questions, you can pop them in there and we can work through them. Just another reminder to try and keep your questions confidential, as we won't be able to answer any that aren't. But if you do have any more in-depth queries that you would like to ask us directly, then again, there's the email address on the screen. Please reach out to us at any point, and myself or one of the team will get back to you as soon as we can. Whilst we're waiting for those questions to come in, we're just going to have a look at a little scenario that you or your young person might find yourself in. And what if your young person doesn't feel ready to make their post-16 destination choice? It can all feel really overwhelming. Lots of information is out there, lots of different options. So how can you best support them? So firstly, please don't worry. We're not saying that you have to make a decision today. That's not what today's podcast is about. Today's podcast is just about giving you the information of where you can find that information. And so you don't have to panic. They can make multiple applications and they don't actually have to decide what it is that they want to do until results day in August. So there's still plenty of time for them to be exploring their options and making that decision on their next step. How to help them make that decision then is all that research. It's really, really important. Having a look on KentChoices, going to those open events, having a look around those sixth forms and colleges is going to get them a good idea of what that course or college or sixth form could feel like, and if that's a decision of what they want to study next. Making those applications early and making multiple applications. So again, making them before Christmas, but they can make up to 8 applications. So if they're really unsure of what they want to do, they can make multiple. They'll be invited along to an interview, and that again will give them more insight to see if that's the next step for them. And reach out for support. You can get in contact with ourselves at the KentChoices team, but also reach out to your young person's school. They will have a careers advisor that they can speak to that will have years of experience of supporting young people in their local area. They'll have really good knowledge of what the sixth forms and colleges locally to them can offer. So speak to them and what support can they offer, what advice can they offer. Make use of the KentChoices website, but also websites like the National Career Service, Amazing Apprenticeships. They have a wealth of information that you can have a look at and to kind of help you guide you through this journey. And then, of course, just making sure that you are prepared for results day. Every year on results day, we speak to young people and parents who have waited until results day to make those applications. Please don't leave it this late. Make sure you're making those applications before Christmas. If you don't make those results day until, if you don't make those applications until results day, there's a very, very high chance that you won't get that first choice of what you want to apply for. So make it nice and early. Being nice and prepared, it can also make those exams feel all the less stressful because they know what those next options are, and it's one thing that they can stop worrying about, at least for now. So some common questions then, and these are based off the questions that you asked in the Eventbrite sign-up forms. Can you apply for multiple places? Yes. Absolutely, please do. You can make up to 8 applications per young person, and we recommend that everyone makes 2 to 3. And with these 2 to 3, try to make sure that they have varying entry requirements. So that young person has that what if plan that Jackie was talking about in the video. What if they don't quite get the grades that they are aiming for? And make sure that they have those varying entry requirements so they've got an option just in case. What is the best route or subject to choose if my young person would like to be a whatever career it is that they've got their heart set on? We'd recommend using the National Careers Service to find out more information on this. The National Careers Service has a detailed page on lots of different job roles, and by clicking into the How to Become section, it will break it down into the different routes. So should they go to sixth form? Should they go to college? What subjects should they study? What apprenticeships are available in that area? And that might help you make that decision. If you are applying from outside of Kent, from a private school, or your young person is educated at home, how do you apply? So if you aren't part of a Kent school, you can still access Kent Choices all the same. You will just need to self-register account. So when you go to the login section, if you click sign up and then out of area / educated at home, it will allow you to create a new Kent Choices account. So you can still access everything all the same. And if you are part of a Kent school, they will give you your username and password. Please don't register an account in this case because it means that your school and college won't be able to see what you've done and therefore they won't be able to support your young person. So please only self-register if you fall into one of these categories. If you do get stuck self-register an account, by all means give us a call and we can talk you through that and help you. And how do you support as a parent? And as I said, it can feel really quite daunting for your young person, but also for you as well. So understanding the post-16 and Kent Choices process, that really is the first step. And hopefully the information in today's podcast has given you the confidence to do that. So if they do have any questions, hopefully now you have a little bit of information to help answer them. Making sure that they're attending the open days. An open day is a really good way for them to get a good kind of idea of what that sixth form and college is like. It's very easy for young people to make a decision that where they want to go or where they don't want to go based on what a friend or an older sibling has said. So making sure they go to the open day so that they make that decision for themselves. Again, encouraging multiple applications, so 2 to 3, ensuring you've got that what if plan if they don't quite get the grades that they want on results day. And also just ensuring that all applications are submitted, messages are read and offers are accepted. It's very easy for us as parents, but also for young people especially, to make an application and then not log back into their Kent Choices account to check to see if they've been invited to an interview or after their interview to check their offer and accept it. So just making sure you're regularly reminding them to log into their Kent Choices account and action any of those messages that they have been sent from those sixth forms and colleges. So they were the kind of most common questions that we got from the Eventbrite sign up form. Owen, are there any other questions that have come in from the chat box that we can answer today?
Yes, we've had a lot. So I'll try to get us around as many as we can. There are some specific questions about specific situations. So I would recommend them people to contact us directly and see if we can help with them. But I'll try and pick out some common ones. So question for Jackie. What information is required in the application?
Okay, so it depends really. So if your school uses the short application form, not much information, but the general census it's just basic details like your contact number, a parent's email, your predicted grades, and that sort of thing, as well as the qualifications. Does that help?
Thank you, Jackie. How do I find out about training providers?
So the best place, if you're a young person, if it sounds like they're best suited for a training provider, would be to get in contact with us directly. Because they are smaller provisions, it really will depend what area of Kent you live in to what's available. So yeah, reach out to us individually. Let us know what your young person is interested in, what their barriers are, what their situation is, and we can kind of advise you from there.
Another one you may be able to help with, Zara. So, how can I apply on the 3rd November when my child does not get their mock results until the end of November?
Okay, so there is no set rule on what results your young person needs to use when they're entering those predicted grades. So if they have got previous grades from something that they've done at the end of year 10, they can input them onto their application. The application is live. So if they use those grades and then they submit an application, and then once they've sat those exams in year 11 and they get higher than they were expecting, they can go onto their Kent Choices account and update those grades, and it'll get automatically sent across to any applications that they have already made. So as I said, if they have already got some from the end of year 10, they can use them. Alternatively, I would just encourage them to speak to their teachers, their school, and try to get a kind of predicted grade from them to see where they're at and what they would be happy for them to put down on their application.
Thank you, Zara. And another one for Jackie. Do I have to be based in Kent to apply?
No, of course you don't. No, and as Zara mentioned earlier, you can just self-register an account to apply.
And another one for you, Jackie, is can you accept multiple offers?
Good question. It really depends on what provider you're applying to. Some colleges do have speculations that you can only accept one offer at a time. That's not to say that you can't decline an offer and then accept another one if you've got another offer. Just you can only have one live offer on the system at a time. But that is mainly colleges. Schools, you're okay accepting multiple offers.
Okay, and we try and take one more, last one, Zara. So my year 11 students leaning towards the apprenticeship route. What are some of the pros and cons of a college rather than an apprenticeship?
Yeah, so I wouldn't really say that there are kind of positive and negatives set for each one. It really just does depend on your young person. And if they are a more practical learner, they like that workplace environment, then they are going to be better suited to an apprenticeship. But if they perhaps want a more supportive environment and they need a little bit more time to develop other skills, so employability skills, confidence, then college might be a better option for them. It also depends on the route that they are interested in. For some routes, you can get apprenticeships, as I said, after year 11, and they can go straight into that at 16. For other routes, they prefer young people to have a little bit more foundation. So having a college course, a qualification to kind of introduce them into that sector will then mean that there's more apprenticeships that they can have a look at later on down the line. Or they're kind of those higher or degree apprenticeships. So as with all of the options, sixth forms, college apprenticeships, it's not that one is better than the other. It just depends on your young person, their learning style and the sector or kind of subject that they're interested in.
Excellent, thanks. So I think one more that just keeps coming up in the chat is maybe a question for Jackie, is around where to find entry requirements.
Okay, so most of the entry requirements will be on what we call the provider page, so as well as the course page, and then when you go on to make the application, they'll also be shown at the top of your application form. So there's loads of different places where you can find the application instructions.
Excellent. Thank you, Jackie. And yes, like I said at the beginning of these questions, there are some specific ones in there. So if we didn't get round to answering your question, please do message us at the Kent Choices mailbox, kentchoice@theeducationpeople.org, and we can try to help you from there.
Thank you, Owen. So just a reminder again then of our next podcast on apprenticeships this Thursday, and again at 6 p.m. And you can sign up for that on the Kent Choices website in the event section, just as you have done for that one. So if that is something that your young person is interested in, we look forward to having you join us again then. That is all for this evening. Thank you again for joining us. Hopefully it has been helpful. If you have missed anything, you want to go back to anything, the recording of this podcast will be available in the resources section of Kent Choices and also on our Kent Choices YouTube channel in the next couple of days. So feel free to go back, find that recording, and as again, I hope it's been helpful. Thank you all for joining us and have a lovely evening.